your English podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever, felt that frustration? You say something in English and the native speaker gives you that slightly confused look. Well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, we've been really digging into quite a few sources for this one. Articles looking at those common communication hurdles for English learners, and also some insights into, well, what makes daily language practice actually stick.
And our mission today,
Mm.
simple, really, to pull out the key nuggets, the practical stuff from all this material, things that can help you make your English communication, crystal clear. Think of it like a bit of a shortcut to being better understood.
Okay, yeah. Let's unpack this then.
So where do we start? What do the sources flag as the main reasons these misunderstandings pop up?
Well, one of the first things that jumps out, and it's fascinating, is how the sources really draw a line between two things people often mix up: accent and dialect.
Right. Okay, so accent. Yeah.
That's more about the sounds, yeah. Like how your native language influences your English pronunciation. Maybe Russian sounds affecting English words? Exactly that. Whereas dialect, they explain, is more about those regional differences. You know, the vocabulary or phrasing you'd hear in Southern California versus, say, North Carolina. Different flavors of English. And the sources are pretty emphatic here. Having an accent is totally natural. It's not inherently the problem. Your accent is, well, part of who you are.
So it's not about wiping out your accent. It's more about being clear within that accent.
Precisely. Clarity is the word they keep coming back to, which leads straight into the next big point. Pronunciation is way more than just getting individual sounds, right? Like that tricky, the sound.
Right. It's the music of the language, some people call it.
That's a great way to put it. The sources really stress that good pronunciation includes intonation, that rise and fall rhythm, and crucially stress, where you put the emphasis.
Okay.
They gave this meat example. Think about I did that versus I did that. See? Same words, but the stress completely shifts the focus. One emphasizes you did it, the other emphasizes what you did.
Wow. Yeah, that makes it super clear. It's not just about sounding nice. It actually changes the meaning. So the advice was listen and repeat native speakers to sort of absorb those patterns.
Exactly. Mimicry helps internalize the rhythm and intonation. Then, moving beyond the sounds themselves, there's another big area: idioms and proverbs.
Oh, yeah. The tricky ones where the literal meaning makes absolutely no sense.
Totally. Like, take yourself together. If you just translate that word for word from some languages, it sounds weird, but it just means calm down.
Or spill the beans, nothing to do with legumes.
Right, means reveal a secret. The big takeaway here from the sources is you absolutely have to learn these in context. Don't just memorize lists. See how they're actually used. Maybe use specific idiom dictionaries or resources.
Makes sense. So after words and phrases, we get to sentence construction, grammar, and how our native language habits can sneak in there.
Oh, definitely. That's a huge factor. The sources strongly advise against just translating your native sentence structure directly into English, word for word.
Stick to the standard English pattern. Subject, verb, object.
Yes. I subject, eat, verb, apples, object. Mastering that basic structure is so fundamental. Deviating from it, that's where native listeners often get tripped up. It throws them off.
And it's not just the order of words, but the specific rules of English grammar itself, Right. The
Yeah.
things that might not exist in your language.
Yeah, exactly. Like how English uses auxiliary verbs like will or shall for the future, or the whole system of articles a and they. These things don't always map neatly onto other languages.
So direct mapping doesn't work.
Not really. The key advice is practical application. Doing exercises, forming questions correctly, negatives, statements, really embedding those English structures through use, not just theory.
Okay, changing gears slightly. Speed. You'd think faster means more fluent, wouldn't you? But the sources seem to say maybe not.
They actually argue quite strongly against that idea. Speaking too fast can seriously hinder understanding. They observe that really clear speakers, maybe like you hear in American formal context sometimes, often use a more measured pace.
Interesting.
Yeah, they define fluency less as raw speed and more as smoothness. Speaking without too many awkward hesitations, giving the listener a chance to actually process what you're saying.
So the advice is slow down a bit, be deliberate, use pauses.
Pretty much. Focus on clarity and steady rhythm, not just rushing through it. Quality over just speed.
Okay. And the final point they highlighted, cultural references.
Ah, yes. This is a subtle one. If you drop in a reference, maybe a specific historical event, a local saying, a character from a book that's very tied to your culture, someone unfamiliar with it is just going to be lost.
Right. Like explaining a national holiday without giving any background just doesn't land.
Exactly. The sources aren't saying don't share your culture. That's great. But just be mindful. If clarity is the main goal in that moment, you might need to explain the reference or maybe choose a more universal one. Provide context.
So, bringing it all together, what's the big picture here? It sounds like being understood is much more complex than just having a big vocabulary or a perfect accent.
It really is. The sources paint a picture where clarity comes from a mix of things. Clear pronunciation, including that intonation and stress, using the right grammatical structures, understanding things like idioms that aren't literal, managing your speed, and being aware of cultural context. It's multi-layered.
And the really powerful takeaway seems to be focusing on these specific areas that clarity, structure, context, speed can make a much bigger difference than just trying to erase your accent completely or cramming more vocabulary.
Absolutely. It shifts the focus to effectiveness rather than just perfection.
Which really makes you think,
Yeah.
how could focusing your practice deliberately on, say, intonation patterns or sentence structure or using idioms correctly or even just consciously managing your speed,
Yeah.
how could that change your whole approach to communicating in English? Something to consider.